Hello and welcome to Star Learners. Today's aim is to investigate our solar system. The solar system consists of the Sun and everything that orbits or moves around the Sun. This includes the 8 planets, their moons, dwarf planets, and countless asteroids and comets, as well as some small icy bits. However, even with all of these things, our solar system is still made up of mostly space. But today we're going to be looking into those planets in our solar system. There are 8 planets in our solar system. We've got the inner rocky planets, Mercury, Venus, Earth and Mars. The outer planets are gas giants, Jupiter and Saturn. And finally, ice giants, Uranus and Neptune. Beyond Neptune, there's a newer class of smaller worlds. These are called dwarf planets. And this is where our famous ex-planet Pluto lives. All 8 planets in our solar system orbit around the Sun. But all of these planets are different sizes and different distances from the Sun. This means that they all move around the Sun at different speeds. Now, you may remember that 1 year is equal to 1 trip around the Sun for us. That's 365 days here on Earth. But if the other planets in our solar system move around the Sun at a different pace, that means 1 year on another planet could be quicker or slower than here on Earth. For example, we've got Mercury. Mercury is the smallest and fastest planet. It zips around the Sun in just 88 Earth days. So 1 year on Mercury is just 88 days long. In comparison, we've got Neptune. Now remember, Neptune is furthest from the Sun. 1 trip around the Sun for Neptune takes nearly 250 Earth years. So 1 year on Earth is 365 days. 1 year on Neptune is 250 years. So if Mercury is closest to the Sun and it moves around the Sun the fastest, and Neptune is the furthest from the Sun and it moves around the Sun the slowest, is there a link here? Simply put, yes. Closer planets orbit faster and more distant planets orbit slower. This is because of our friend gravity. So because Neptune is so far from the Sun, the force of gravity is weaker and therefore it orbits around the Sun slower. We talk a lot about gravity in astronomy, and if you find it a little bit strange to understand, that's totally normal. We can't see gravity, we can't hear gravity, and the way that we feel it is just simply normal to us. If you drop a pencil, it falls to the floor. If you jump, you come back down. That is our everyday gravity. So it makes sense that it's a bit complicated to try and wrap your head around gravity having such an effect all the way out in space. It causes these massive planets miles and miles away to move in a certain way. And that's something we all have in common. However, the planets in our solar system are all very different. So firstly, we know they're different distances from the Sun. The closest is Mercury, and then it's Venus, then here on Earth, then Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune. And you can count little Pluto on the end there. Knowing this information of the planets and their distances from the Sun is really useful information to draw on and really helps you to understand the way that the solar system is formed. But I can see that it's quite hard to remember. So what can we do to try and remember it? Mnemonics are really easy ways to remember things like this. A mnemonic is a pattern of letters or word associations to help us remember things like this. They're simply used to jog our memories. So let me give you an example. Let's say we're including Pluto on the end of this one, okay? My very easy method just saves us naming planets. You could even use the word mnemonic in here, seeing as it's got that silent M. Once you've written out your mnemonic onto a piece of paper, you can then decode it and work out which planet is which. My, Mercury, very, Venus, easy, Earth, method, Mars, just, Jupiter, saves, Saturn, us, Uranus, naming, Neptune. But you can create these in any way that will help you remember. You might try, my very eager monkey jumped straight up north. Or, my very educated mother just served us Nutella. Find one that you'll remember and that will really help to jog your memory. Now, let's get into some fun facts about all 8 planets in our solar system. Let's start in order. Mercury. So we know Mercury is closest to the sun. It's seriously hot, but not too hot for ice. NASA's Messenger spacecraft found ice on the planet. It's thought that perhaps comets delivered the ice to Mercury, and now it's just stayed there at the North Pole. It's rather strange how these elements are distributed around the solar system. Venus. Venus is actually the hottest planet. That's because it's got a super thick atmosphere that traps all of the heat. So it wouldn't be a very pleasant place to be. It also rains sulfuric acid on Venus. That is corrosive, and that would leave you with severe burns. Now for Earth. You may think you know everything about Earth, but did you know it has a magnetic field surrounding it? That magnetic field protects us from radiation and particles coming from the sun. So this magnetic field is invisible to us until the particles from the sun flow along the magnetic field and interact with Earth's upper atmosphere. You may know that as the Northern Lights. The Northern Lights simply light up what's always there and we just can't see: Earth's magnetic field. Mars. Once upon a time, Mars was a very wet and very warm planet. It's possible that life once flourished there. Now it's the closest planet in our solar system that could inhabit life. Its soil contains water to extract. It doesn't experience such extreme weather and temperatures as some other planets in our solar system. It has an atmosphere nearly as good as Earth's. And one day on Mars is 24 hours and 39 minutes. Very similar to us here on Earth, where one day is 24 hours. And most importantly, it's the only other planet just inside the habitable zone. That's the Goldilocks distance from the sun where life can flourish. Not too hot, not too cold. Jupiter. Jupiter is the largest and the fastest spinning planet. Its large red spot is a storm larger than Earth. It's raged for the last 150 years at least. Jupiter is really interesting. It has 67 moons and 1,300 Earths could fit inside Jupiter. And it rains diamonds. Jupiter is a good planet. Saturn. Saturn has the biggest, brightest and most complex ring system around the planet. Saturn has 62 moons, including its famous moon, Titan. Supposedly on Titan, the gravity is low enough and the atmosphere thick enough that if you attached wings to your arms, you could fly. And it rains diamonds. Uranus. Uranus is an ice giant. It's nearly 4 times larger than Earth. It's sometimes known as the sideways planet. This is because it orbits around the sun on its side. Very peculiar. But Uranus has 27 moons. Good competition for Jupiter and Saturn. And finally, Neptune. Neptune is interesting. It was the first planet discovered through mathematical calculations as opposed to observation. This means scientists worked out it was there without even seeing it. It's the coldest planet in our solar system, and it's powerful. It's captured one of its very own moons, stuck in such a strong orbit around Neptune that it's spiraling towards the middle. At some point in billions of years, Triton, the spinning moon, will likely be torn apart by Neptune's gravitational pull. Then it will form a magnificent ring around the planet, which will then be pulled inwards and crash into the planet. It may be far away, but it's very powerful. Well, there you have it. All of the 8 planets in our solar system, and some fun facts to go with them. Now, I hope you remember your mnemonic or your method to remember the order of the planets from the sun. And some of those fun facts. I, for one, definitely want to go to Jupiter or Saturn. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time. Don't forget to subscribe.